8-year-old Lily Henderson had always been told to stay away from those people, the Lakota, who sometimes passed through the settlement of Pine Ridge on their way to the reservation lands. Her father, William Henderson, was the town's general, store owner, and one of its most vocal opponents of what he called Indian sympathizers. "They're dangerous, Lily," he would say whenever she asked about the native families she occasionally glimpsed from their cabin window. "They steal, they raid, they can't be trusted. You stay clear of them, you hear me?" But on this cold October morning in 1885, as frost painted the windows of their small frontier home, Lily couldn't ignore what she saw by the creek that bordered their property. An elderly native man sat hunched against a cottonwood tree, his weathered clothes offering little protection against the bitter wind. Even from a distance, she could see he was in distress, possibly sick, certainly cold. And from the way he held himself, very hungry. Lily's mother, Sarah, had passed away the previous winter, leaving her father to care for both Lily and her baby brother, Thomas. William Henderson was a hard man, made harder by grief. And lately, he'd been drinking more and caring less about what his daughter did. During the long hours he spent at the store while Thomas napped in his cradle and her father worked in town, Lily made a decision that would change everything. She wrapped her mother's old shawl around her shoulders, filled a basket with bread, dried meat, and the last jar of preserves her mother had made, and quietly slipped out of the house. The old man looked up as she approached, his dark eyes alert despite his obvious weakness. He was older than her grandfather had been, with silver hair braided with strips of leather and a face lined by decades of harsh prairie weather. Most striking were his eyes, deep brown and kind, despite the wariness that flickered there when he saw her. "Hello," Lily said softly, stopping a respectful distance away. She'd heard that sudden movements could frighten wild animals, and she sensed this proud man might be just as easily startled. The elder studied her for a long moment, taking in her small form, the basket in her hands, the complete absence of fear in her young face. When he spoke, his English was careful but clear. "Little one, you should not be here. Your people do not welcome mine. I'm not my people," Lily said with the simple logic of childhood. "I'm just me, and you look hungry." She set the basket down between them and backed away, watching as the old man's eyes widened at the sight of the food. His hands trembled, whether from cold, weakness, or emotion. She couldn't tell as he reached for the bread. "What is your name, little one?" he asked after taking a small, careful bite. "Lily Henderson." "What's yours?" "I am called Dakota. It means friend to all in my language." He paused, studying her face. "Though I have found few friends among your people in recent years." "Why not?" Dakota's smile was sad but genuine. "Because fear makes people forget kindness. Because when times are hard, it is easier to blame others than to help them." Lily considered this, her 8-year-old mind working through concepts that many adults struggled with. "Are you afraid of me?" "No, little Lily, I am not afraid of you. You have a good heart, I can see it in your eyes. Then why should I be afraid of you?" Dakota finished the bread slowly, savoring each bite. "You should not be. But your father will not understand this. He will be angry if he learns you have helped me." "My father is angry about a lot of things," Lily said matter-of-factly. "He's been angry since Mama died. But Mama always said we should help people who need help, no matter what they look like or where they come from. Your mother was wise. She was the best person I ever knew." Lily's voice grew wistful. "She used to tell me stories about people from all over the world, Indians and Chinese people and folks from across the ocean. She said every person had something important to teach if you were willing to listen." Dakota set down the empty jar of preserves and looked at this remarkable child, who spoke of her deceased mother with such love and wisdom. "What would your mother say about you being here with me?" Lily didn't hesitate. "She'd say I did the right thing. She always said that kindness was the most important thing in the world, and that God loved all his children the same, even Indian children, especially people that others are mean to," Lily said firmly. "Mama said Jesus spent his time with people everybody else ignored." Dakota felt something stir in his chest, an emotion he hadn't experienced in years. Hope, perhaps, or faith in humanity renewed by the simple generosity of a child who saw past the boundaries adults had created. "Little Lily," he said carefully, "I must tell you something important. I am not traveling alone." Lily tilted her head, curious rather than afraid. "Where are the others?" "Hidden, watching, protecting me. We have been driven from our lands, forced to move to the reservation. Many are sick, all are hungry. We travel at night and hide during the day because—" he gestured toward the distant town, "because we are not welcome, but your people. Just like us, yes, we are. But not everyone sees it that way." Lily looked around, wondering where Dakota's companions were hidden. "Are they hungry too?" "Very hungry. We have been walking for many days with little food." Without hesitation, Lily stood and brushed off her skirt. "Wait here, I'll be right back." She ran back to the house, her mind racing. In the root cellar, she found potatoes, carrots, onions, and the smoked ham her father had been saving for winter. In the pantry, she gathered flour, beans, and what remained of their dried fruit. It was most of their winter stores. But Lily couldn't bear the thought of people, especially children, going hungry. When she had food to share, when she returned to the creek, Dakota had been joined by two other figures who had emerged from the brush at his signal. A middle-aged woman with tired eyes and a teenage boy who watched Lily with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. "This is my daughter, Ayanna, and my grandson, Chayton," Dakota said. They wanted to meet the generous child who shares her food with strangers. Ayanna stepped forward and knelt so she was at Lily's eye level. "Little one, you have shown great kindness to my father, but this food, will your family not miss it?" Lily thought about her father's likely reaction and decided honesty was best. "Papa will probably be mad, but being mad isn't the worst thing that can happen to a person. Being hungry is worse." Chayton, who appeared to be about 16, spoke up. "Your father, he owns the store in town. Yes, he has told people that Indians are thieves, that we cannot be trusted." Lily looked up at the boy, taking in his proud bearing, his intelligent eyes, the careful way he spoke. "Are you a thief? No. Then Papa's wrong about you, isn't he?" The simple logic of it seemed to startle all three of her visitors. Ayanna and Dakota exchanged a look that carried volumes of unspoken communication. "Little Lily," Dakota said gently, "what you have done today, sharing your food, seeing us as people rather than enemies, this is a great gift. But I fear it may bring trouble to your family." "What kind of trouble?" "If your father learns that you have helped us, he may punish you. If others in town learn that we have been here, they may blame your family for harboring Indians." Lily considered. "This seriously? So you're saying that being kind might get me in trouble?" "Yes." "Well," Lily said, straightening her small shoulders, "Mama always said that if doing the right thing was easy, everybody would do it. She said the right thing is often the hard thing, but that's what makes it important." Dakota felt tears threaten for the first time in years. This child, this remarkable little girl, had not only fed his body, but restored something in his spirit that he'd thought was lost forever, faith in the possibility of understanding between peoples. "You honor your mother's memory," he said softly, "and you honor us with your friendship." As the afternoon wore on, Lily learned that Dakota's small band was the remainder of a larger group that had been scattered by soldiers. They were trying to reach relatives on the reservation, but the journey was long and dangerous, especially for the elderly and sick among them. "How many of you are there?" Lily asked. 12. Ayanna answered. 3 elders, for adults, 5 children. The youngest is only 3 years old. Lily's heart clenched at the thought of a 3-year-old going hungry. "Where are they now?" "Hidden in the caves by Miller's Creek, about 2 miles from here," Chayton said. "We take turns coming out to look for food, but—" He gestured toward his grandfather. "Dakota insisted on searching alone today. He said he was too old to worry about safety. I said I was too old to let children take risks for me," Dakota corrected with gentle dignity. As the sun began to set, Lily knew she had to return home before her father came back from the store. But leaving felt impossible when she knew there were hungry children hidden in caves. Cold and frightened, "I'll come back tomorrow," she promised. "I'll bring more food if I can." "Little one," Dakota said, his voice heavy with emotion, "you have Already done more than we dared hope for. Do not risk yourself further for us. Mama used to say that love wasn't something you felt, it was something you did, Lily replied. And helping people is how you show love. As she walked back toward her house, basket empty, but heart full, Lily didn't notice the figure watching from the ridge above the creek. Jeremiah Wade, her father's drinking companion and one of the most vocal Indian haters in Pine Ridge, had seen everything. By morning, the whole town would know that William Henderson's daughter had been consorting with savages. And by morning, everything in Lily's small world would change forever. But that night, as she lay in her small bed listening to her baby brother's peaceful breathing, Lily felt her mother's presence stronger than she had since the funeral. She'd done the right thing, the hard thing, and tomorrow she would do it again, no matter what anybody said. Because kindness, her mother had taught her, was never wrong. And love, real love, was always worth the risk. Lily woke before dawn to the sound of angry voices outside her bedroom window. Her father's voice, raised in fury, mixed with others she recognized from town: Jeremiah Wade, Sheriff Morrison, and at least 3 or 4 other men. The words Indian, lover, and betrayal drifted through the thin walls of their cabin, and Lily's stomach dropped as she realized what had happened. She quickly dressed and crept to the kitchen, where she found her father pacing like a caged animal, his face red with rage and whiskey. Baby Thomas sat in his high chair, crying from the tension in the air. But William Henderson seemed oblivious to his son's distress. "Papa," Lily said quietly, and her father whirled around to face her. "You," he snarled, his voice thick with drink and fury. "You little fool, do you have any idea what you've done?" Before Lily could answer, the front door burst open and Jeremiah Wade strode in without invitation, followed by Sheriff Morrison and 3 other townsmen. Wade was a large man, with mean eyes and a reputation for violence, especially against Indians. "There she is," Wade announced, pointing at Lily as if she were some kind of criminal. "The little traitor who's been feeding redskins with our stolen goods." "I didn't steal anything," Lily said, her voice steady despite her fear. "I gave them our food that your father works hard to provide," Sheriff Morrison said, though his tone was gentler than Wade's. "Lily, you can't just give away your family's supplies to those people." "Why not?" "They were hungry. Because they're savages," Wade roared. "Because they'd slit your throat as soon as look at you. Because they're the enemy." "They didn't seem like enemies," Lily replied with the devastating honesty of childhood. "They seemed like people who needed help." William Henderson grabbed his daughter roughly by the shoulders. "Listen to me, you stupid girl. Those Indians you helped, they probably poisoned your mind with their heathen ways. They're probably planning to come back and murder us all in our beds." "No, they're not," Lily said firmly. "They're just trying to get to the reservation so they don't starve." "How do you know what they told you is true?" Sheriff Morrison asked. "Indians are known liars." "Child, they probably told you sob stories to get your sympathy." Lily thought about Dakota's kind eyes, Ayanna's gentle voice, Chayton's proud dignity. "They weren't lying. I could tell." "You could tell," Wade laughed harshly. "You're 8 years old. What could you possibly know about savage nature?" "I know about people," Lily said, her small chin lifting defiantly. "And I know the difference between good people and bad people. Those Indians were good people." The room erupted in angry voices, the men talking over each other about the dangers Lily had exposed the town to, the stupidity of her actions, the need to teach her a lesson she'd never forget. Through it all, baby Thomas continued to cry, and Lily realized that in all the shouting, no one was taking care of him. She pushed past the arguing adults and lifted her brother from his chair, holding him close and whispering soothing words until his sobs subsided. The simple act of caring for someone smaller and more vulnerable than herself gave her strength. "Lily," Sheriff Morrison said, his voice cutting through the chaos, "you need to tell us exactly where you met these Indians. We need to find them before they cause trouble." "I won't tell you that." The room went dead quiet. William Henderson's face turned purple with rage. "What did you say?" "I said I won't tell you where they are. You want to hurt them, and I won't help you hurt good people." Wade stepped forward menacingly. "Listen here, you little, that's enough." The new voice came from the doorway, where Dr. Samuel Matthews stood with his medical bag in hand. He was an elderly man who'd been the town's physician for over 30 years, and one of the few people William Henderson still respected. "Doc," Henderson said, trying to regain his composure, "this isn't medical business, isn't it?" Dr. Matthews stepped into the room and looked around at the angry faces. "I see a baby who's been crying from stress, a child who's being terrorized by adults, and a group of grown men who seem to have forgotten what Christian charity means." "Christian charity," Wade sputtered. "Doc, this girl has been helping savages. She's put the whole town at risk." Dr. Matthews turned his attention to Lily, who still held Thomas protectively in her arms. "Lily, dear, is it true that you gave food to some hungry people?" "Yes, sir." "And these people, did they threaten you? Try to hurt you in any way?" "No, sir. They were very polite. The grandfather even warned me that Papa might be angry if he found out." "The grandfather, his name is Lakota. He speaks good English and he has kind eyes. He's sick, I think, and very tired." Double quotes. Dr. Matthews nodded thoughtfully. "And you gave them food because they were hungry?" "Yes, sir. Mama always said." "I know what your mother always said." Dr. Matthews interrupted gently. "She was a good woman who raised you to be compassionate. I don't think she'd be disappointed in your actions." "Doc," Sheriff Morrison said uncomfortably, "you can't be encouraging this kind of behavior. The girl needs to understand what she needs to understand." Dr. Matthews said firmly, "Is that showing mercy to those in need is never wrong. What the rest of you need to understand is that terrorizing a child for showing Christian kindness is shameful." The room was quiet for a moment. Then Wade's voice cut through the silence like a blade. "Those Indians she helped, they're probably watching this house right now, planning an attack. We need to form a posse, hunt them down before they strike." "You're talking about murder," Dr. Matthews said quietly. "Hunting down a small group of displaced people whose only crime is being hungry. Their crime is being Indian." Wade snarled. "That's crime enough." It was then that Lily made a decision that would change everything. Still holding baby Thomas, she walked to the window and looked out at the group of mounted men who had gathered in their yard. Beyond them, on the ridge overlooking the house, she could see figures silhouetted against the morning sky. "They're here," she said quietly. Every head in the room snapped toward the window. There, arranged in a perfect line along the ridge, sat 12 horses and riders. Even from a distance, the dignity and calm of their bearing was unmistakable. "Dear God," Sheriff Morrison whispered. "How many of them are there?" 12, Lily said. "Just like Ayanna told me. 3 elders, for adults, 5 children." Wade was already reaching for his gun. "They've come to attack. I told you this would happen." "No," Lily said firmly. "They've come because they're worried about me." She was right. As the men in the cabin watched in amazement, the line of riders began to move down the ridge, not in the swift, aggressive charge they'd expected, but in a slow, ceremonial procession. At their head rode Lakota, no longer the weak, starving man Lily had met by the creek, but revealed now as what he truly was: a chief, a leader, a man of profound dignity despite his circumstances. "They're not attacking," Dr. Matthews observed. "They're presenting themselves." As the riders drew closer, more details became visible. The children Lily had asked about were there, including a tiny figure that could only be the 3-year-old Ayanna had mentioned, riding safely in front of an adult. None of the riders carried weapons in their hands, though Lily was sure they had them. This was not a war party. This was something else entirely. "What do they want?" Henderson asked, his voice tight with fear. Lily looked at her father, then at the other men who had been so ready to hunt down innocent people, then back at the approaching riders. "I think," she said with the wisdom that sometimes comes from the mouths of babes, "they want to talk." The riders stopped about 50 yards from the house, close enough for conversation, but far enough to show they meant no immediate threat. Lakota dismounted slowly, his movements careful and deliberate, and began walking toward the cabin alone. "He's coming under a flag of truce," Dr. Matthews said quietly. "The least we can do is hear what he has to say. The least we can do is shoot him." Wade muttered, but his hand had moved away from his gun. Even he could see that this was no ordinary situation. Dakota stopped about 10 feet from the porch and looked directly at the window where Lily stood. When he spoke, his voice carried clearly in the morning air. "I have come to speak for the child," he said in English that was formal but perfectly clear. "The little one who showed kindness to strangers. I would speak with her father." William Henderson looked round the room at the other men, saw his own fear reflected in their faces, and realized he had no choice but to go outside. Dr. Matthews put a restraining hand on his arm. "William," the doctor said quietly, "whatever happens here, remember that your daughter is watching. Remember what kind of man you want her to see." Henderson nodded reluctantly and walked to the door. When he stepped outside, still wearing yesterday's clothes and smelling of whiskey, he felt ashamed for the first time in months. This Indian man, this enemy he'd been taught to hate and fear, stood before him with more dignity than he himself possessed. "You are the father of the generous child?" Dakota asked. "I am." "Then we must speak of important things." And in that moment, William Henderson realized that his daughter's simple act of kindness had set in motion something much larger than anyone could have imagined. The reckoning had come, but it would not be the one any of them expected. The conversation that followed would be talked about in Pine Ridge for generations to come. William Henderson, hungover and ashamed, faced Dakota across a gulf of cultural misunderstanding and mutual suspicion, while behind them their respective peoples watched with varying degrees of hope and fear. "Your daughter," Dakota began, his voice carrying the weight of ceremony, "gave food to my family when we were starving. She asked nothing in return. She showed no fear, only compassion. This is a rare thing in these troubled times." Henderson shifted uncomfortably. "She's just a child. She doesn't understand." "She understands more than many adults," Dakota interrupted gently. "She understands that hunger is the same, whether it gnaws at a white belly or a red one. She understands that a child's tears sound the same in any language." From the cabin window, Lily watched her father struggle with concepts he'd never had to face before. Behind her, the other men listened in silence, their earlier bluster replaced by something that might have been shame. "What do you want?" Henderson asked bluntly. "Justice," Dakota replied. "Not the white man's justice that comes from courts and laws, but the justice that comes from the heart. Your daughter honored us with her gift. We would honor her in return." "How?" Instead of answering directly, Dakota raised his hand toward the line of riders still waiting on the ridge. Slowly, carefully, they began to approach. As they drew nearer, Henderson could see that this was indeed a family group: men, women, children, and elders, all bearing the marks of hard travel and harder times. "These are my people," Dakota said as they formed a loose circle around the cabin. "We are the last of our band, driven from our lands, forced to walk the white man's road to the reservation. We have lost much: our homes, our freedom, many of our relatives. But yesterday, a small white child reminded us that we have not lost everything." Ayanna dismounted and approached, carrying something wrapped in soft buckskin. "This is for the little one," she said to Henderson, her English accented but clear. "It belonged to my grandmother and her grandmother before that. It is very old, very sacred to our people." She unwrapped the bundle to reveal a necklace of intricate beadwork, with a small medallion carved from what looked like turquoise and silver. Even Henderson, in his ignorance, could see that it was beautiful and clearly valuable. "We cannot accept this," he said, though his voice lacked conviction. "You cannot refuse it." Dakota replied firmly. "Your daughter gave from her heart when she had little to give. We give from our hearts when we have little left. This is the way of honor." Dr. Matthews had emerged from the cabin and was studying the assembled group with professional interest. "How many of you are sick?" he asked Dakota directly. "Several. The journey has been hard, especially for the very young and very old." "I'm a doctor. I could help." The offer hung in the air between them, radical in its simplicity. Jeremiah Wade pushed past Henderson, his face red with fury. "This is madness. We don't treat savages. We don't accept gifts from them. We don't what?" The voice came from behind him, clear and strong. Lily had emerged from the cabin, still carrying baby Thomas, her small face set with determination. "We don't help sick people. We don't say thank you when someone wants to give us a present. We don't act like Christians, Lily, her father warned. But she wasn't finished, Mr. Wade, she said, looking directly at the large man who'd been calling for violence. Why do you hate these people so much? Wade sputtered, clearly not expecting to be challenged by a child. Because they're dangerous. Because they're different. Because you're scared of them. The question hit like a slap. Wade's face went purple, but before he could respond, little Chayton, Dakota's grandson, spoke up from his position near the horses. I am scared too, he said in careful English. Scared of men with guns who hunt us like animals. Scared of going hungry. Scared of being sent far from the sacred places of my people. He paused, looking directly at Wade. But I am not scared of a little girl who shares her food with strangers. The silence that followed was broken by the sound of baby Thomas gurgling happily in Lily's arms. The baby, oblivious to the tension around him, reached out toward the colorful beads on Ayanna's dress, and she smiled, stepping closer to let him touch them. He is beautiful, Ayanna said to Lily. You care for him well. He's my little brother. I love him. Love is the same in all languages, Dakota observed. Love and hunger and fear and hope, these things unite all people, if we let them. Dr. Matthews stepped forward, his medical bag in his hand. Dakota, if I may, I'd like to examine your people who are ill. No charge, no conditions. Just one human being helping another. Dakota studied the doctor's face for a long moment, then nodded. You would do this. Even though we are Indian, I would do this because you are human beings in need of care. As Dr. Matthews began tending to the sick among Dakota's people, something remarkable happened. The rigid lines of us and them began to blur. Mrs. Patterson, who had come to see what the commotion was about, found herself helping to hold a feverish child while the doctor examined her. Sheriff Morrison, initially there to keep the peace, ended up sharing his water with Dakota's elderly sister. Even some of the men who had come ready for violence found themselves softened by the reality of human suffering and dignity before them. But not everyone was moved. Jeremiah Wade watched the proceedings with growing rage, his worldview threatened by the simple humanity being displayed. This is wrong, he announced loudly. These savages are manipulating you all. Can't you see this is just another trick? What trick? Lily asked, still holding Thomas. The trick where they say thank you for food. The trick where they bring presents. The trick where they let the doctor help their sick people. The trick where they make you feel sorry for them so you let your guard down. Wade snarled. Mark my words, before this day is over, we'll all regret this foolishness. It was then that Dakota stood and addressed the entire gathering, his voice carrying the authority of a man accustomed to being heard. You speak of tricks and deception, he said to Wade. You speak of danger and threats, but I ask you, what threat do we pose? 12 people, including children and elders, with little food and few weapons? What danger do we present to your town of hundreds? Wade had no answer that didn't reveal his own irrationality. We seek only passage to the reservation, Dakota continued. We ask for nothing but to be left in peace. But this child, he gestured toward Lily, she gave us something we had not dared hope for. She gave us proof that not all whites see us as animals to be hunted. And in return, Ayanna added, stepping forward with the beaded necklace still in her hands, we offer friendship. This necklace belonged to my grandmother, who always believed that someday the children of all peoples would play together in peace. She knelt in front of Lily and carefully placed the necklace around the child's neck. The beadwork was exquisite, and the turquoise medallion caught the morning light like captured sky. Wear this, Ayanna said softly, and remember that kindness creates more kindness. Your gift of food has fed not just our bodies, but our faith in the goodness of people. Lily touched the necklace reverently. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, not more beautiful than the heart that earned it, Dakota said. As the morning progressed, something unprecedented happened in Pine Ridge. Instead of the violence that had seemed inevitable, understanding began to bloom. Dr. Matthews treated the sick, sharing his knowledge with Ayanna, who proved to have considerable skill with medicinal plants. Children from both groups began to eye each other with curiosity rather than fear. Adults found themselves in halting conversations about the challenges of raising families. In a harsh land. William Henderson, watching his daughter move freely among the Indian families, began to see his own prejudices for what they were, fear dressed up as righteousness, ignorance masquerading as wisdom. "Lily," he called out as the sun reached its zenith, "come here." She approached with Thomas still in her arms, the beaded necklace beautiful against her simple dress. "Papa, did I do wrong?" she asked, though her tone suggested she already knew the answer. Henderson looked at his daughter, really looked at her, and saw not just a child, but a teacher, someone who had learned the lessons her mother tried to impart, and lived them without question or compromise. "No, sweetheart," he said quietly. "You did exactly right. I'm the one who was wrong." He turned to face Dakota, who stood nearby with his family gathered around him. "I owe you an apology," Henderson said, the words coming hard but necessarily. "I've been teaching my daughter to fear you when I should have been learning from her how to help you." Dakota inclined his head gracefully. "Fear is a heavy burden to carry. We are grateful when anyone chooses to set it down." As the day wore on, the impossible became reality. Plans were made to help Dakota's people on their journey to the reservation. Food was shared from the town stores. Dr. Matthews provided medicine and promised to send more supplies to the reservation when possible. Not everyone was converted. Jeremiah Wade left in disgust, muttering about fools and traitors, but enough hearts were changed to matter. As evening approached and Dakota's people prepared to continue their journey, Lily stood with her father, watching them break camp with the efficiency of long practice. "Will I see them again?" she asked. "I don't know," Henderson admitted, "but I know you'll remember them always, and they'll remember you." Dakota approached them one final time, his weathered face peaceful despite the trials that lay ahead. "Little Lily," he said, "you have given us a great gift, not just food for our bodies, but hope for our spirits. When I see my grandchildren playing on the reservation, I will tell them about the white child who shared her bread with strangers. And when I grow up," Lily replied, "I'll tell my children about the Indian grandfather who taught me that kindness makes the whole world better." As the sun set over Pine Ridge and Dakota's people disappeared into the gathering dusk, Lily Henderson touched the beautiful necklace at her throat and felt her mother's presence stronger than ever. She had learned that love was indeed the same in all languages, and that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness could change the world in ways too wonderful to imagine. The little girl who had given food to a starving elder had received far more than she'd given. She'd received proof that compassion was stronger than fear, that understanding was possible even across the deepest divides, and that sometimes the wisdom of a child could teach an entire community what it meant to be truly human. Thank you for following Lily's extraordinary journey from a simple act of kindness to a moment that changed an entire community. This powerful story reminds us that compassion knows no boundaries, that children often see truth more clearly than adults, and that even in the darkest times, love can bridge any divide. If this tale of courage, wisdom, and the transformative power of kindness moved you, please subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories about the better angels of human nature. Your support helps us continue sharing these vital messages about hope, understanding, and the profound impact one person's actions can have on the world. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. There are many more heartwarming adventures waiting for you.